Hi everyone, my name is Mark Gorman. I'm the Green Party candidate for Lowfell and the local elections coming up on the 6th of May. I want to talk to you today about Gateshead's Climate Emergency Action Plan. I want to show you how you can access that plan and just highlight some of the things which I think are good about it and some of the things which I think could do with being improved. So to access the plan, you go to the Gateshead Council website and in the search box at the top, if you type in climate emergency, climate change, sorry, it'll take you to that page. If you click on that first link, you can go to the section here, what Gateshead Council is doing. If you click on read more, it takes you to a further page of information, which gives you some more details on Gateshead's response to the climate emergency. So what I want to highlight particularly is this Climate Emergency Action Plan, which is a document which was published in February 2021. So if you click on that, you can download it, you can open it up. It's a 17-page document. It's very nicely laid out, very easy to read. So I just want to take you through this section by section. So in the introduction, it talks about the Paris Agreement on climate change in 2016. So this was a recognition by the countries around the world that in order to keep average global temperature increases to below 2 degrees by the end of the century, those countries would need to be carbon neutral, would need to have net zero emissions by 2050. So the UK was the first member state to commit to making a legally binding target, and in May 2019, the UK committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050. Now, Gateshead Council, at its council meeting on the 23rd of May 2019, declared a climate emergency and set out a number of commitments. So it's committed to making the council activities carbon neutral by 2030, achieving 100% clean energy across the council's range of functions, and there's a number of really good commitments. And this plan has also really come out of that statement of the climate emergency. It is significant to note that this plan was only published in February of this year. So having declared that there's an emergency in 2019, in May 2019, it's taken almost 2 years to actually produce a plan. So at the moment, it doesn't feel like an emergency. Having said that, there's some really good things in this plan, so it's really worth looking through this and understanding what the commitments are. So as we get into the detail here, there's a section here on ensuring communities are resilient to a changing environment, ensuring our communities realise the benefits of a changing economy or from a changing economy. So this is about all the change that we're going to face as we transition to a green economy. It's making sure that nobody's left behind in that change, which is really important. There's a section there on an audit that was carried out on the council's carbon and environmental impact, and that audit has partly informed this plan. And there's a bit here on part of the introduction where it talks about an online survey of residents' views on the climate emergency, and it's saying a summary of responses to the surveys available here. Fortunately, when you click on the link, there is no link, so there is no summary of responses. It would be really good to see what the summary of residents' responses to that survey were, to understand how those responses have helped to shape this action plan. So when we get into the detail, sector by sector, there's some high-level commitments. So under transport, commitment is to increase the use of electric or low carbon vehicles, to support agile working, expanding the use of digital technology, encouraging the expansion of charging facilities. There's a picture here of the electric buses, which we've already seen on our roads, which has been really good. Under housing, there's a commitment to promote low carbon housing development across Gateshead, improving the insulation to council-owned properties, continuing to explore the use of hydrogen as a viable source of energy. And then sector by sector, there's some really good commitments until we get to the section on community. So under community, I would have expected it to say something about how the council will support local residents in our own journey to become carbon neutral. Instead, the commitments are not quite so practical or not quite so accessible to ordinary residents. So it talks about promoting an understanding of climate emergency issues, encouraging the growth of local green businesses, supporting local food production to minimise food miles, but it doesn't really say how the council will support us in terms of our response to the climate emergency. How will it support us to deal with the fact that many of us got poor insulation in our homes? Many of us still have, or most of us still have gas-powered boilers in our homes as well. So I would have expected something a bit more practical in terms of a roadmap in there. Under nature and the environment, it talks about protecting existing woodlands and planting an extra 250 hectares of woodland by 2050. So 250 hectares is 2.5 square kilometres. 2050 is the deadline for being carbon neutral as a country. So it's no good for the woodland to be planted by then. The woodland needs to be mature and established by then, to be doing its job of breathing in the carbon dioxide, turning it into wood, to be acting as an offsetting measure for any remaining emissions that there are. So this date needs to be brought forward quite significantly to 2030 or 2025 even. Then when we get down to the appendix, there's lots of really good actions, but unfortunately they're let down by this very vague timescale. So against each action, there's a timescale for implementing of short, medium or long term. It's very difficult to know what that really means. So if I pick an example here, encouraging the expansion of charging facilities for electric vehicles, the commitment is to deliver that in a medium timescale. What we really need is we need to know what the current status is. So line by line, we need to know the current status. So in this example, we need to know how many charging facilities are there at the moment, how many do we intend to get to, when do we intend to get to that point, how are we going to monitor progress, how is progress going to be measured, and how is it going to be reported back to local residents. So line by line, those extra bits need to be added to this plan in order to turn this into a proper plan. So in terms of our response to this, I think my appeal to you really is to vote green. Let's get some green voices on the council. Let's revisit this plan. It's a good plan. It's got some really good features, but there's some things which really need to be improved on it. Let's turn it into a plan that you can be proud of. Let's turn it into a plan which really does justice to our aspirations as residents in Gateshead to play our part in the climate emergency and responding to the climate emergency. So thanks very much for listening. I look forward to your comments. Thank you.